November the 4th, 2025. David Lapp coming to you live from my office. I also have Chris Purcell will be joining me here shortly. Before Chris comes on here, just wanted to give a little bit of an update on my Facebook account. I know a number of you are aware that I've been hacked on my Facebook account, and there's somebody posing as me, trying to sell all kinds of stuff, saying that my uncle was in the hospital or moved to a nursing home, whatever it was. That is not me. I have been hacked. Somehow the hackers got in through an old Yahoo account that I was hardly using anymore, and I did not have my two-factor authenticator turned on my Yahoo. I did on my Facebook, but through using my Yahoo account, they were able to tap into my account, and now they have an authenticator app over in Nigeria somewhere that has control of my account. So until I get a hold of somebody at Facebook to override the authenticator app in Nigeria, I'm not sure what to do. If anybody has any thoughts on how to get that done, please reach out to me directly. Don't message me through Facebook because that's not me. If you are messaging with the scammers and you think you're messaging with me, you're not. This is a I know of a few people that send money to them, so please do not send money through the Facebook thing without reaching me directly or making sure that it is me, because at this point my Facebook account has been compromised. If you can share this message with anybody just to get the word out, that would be great. But yeah, that is what is happening with my Facebook. So at this point, I'm going to bring on Chris. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
So theme for today, or the title for today, is When Doing Good Gets Hard. And it's just as we're thinking about everything that we're involved in, everything that we're doing, how do we keep serving when we're running on empty, or when we're not sure what we're supposed to be doing, or how to get through the day, or whatever. So I'd just like to hear some of your thoughts on that, Chris.
Yeah, it's interesting even hearing you talk about Facebook a little bit, and even some of the stress of you trying to get access back to your Facebook account. Like, there's so many things even in our lives where we just feel like we're constantly driving towards something, and we're constantly working in this one way, and not even necessarily when we hit walls, but we're finding ourselves in this place where we need to almost step back a little bit and kind of say, like, hey, I'm putting all of this in, but I also need to let God have a place in all of this. I need to find a way to be more inspired, to be renewed. And oftentimes we can't be renewed while we're still doing.
Mm-hmm.
We're not finding ways to let God speak into us in new ways unless we're allowing space for God to be heard by us. And so often that comes in rest. So some of the topic for me is, it's hard, but it's also, by stepping away from that, we're allowing Jesus to speak into us. And here's our verse for today from Mark 6. And it actually comes before the feeding of the 5,000 that we were talking about last week, although we were in Luke. And this reads from verse 30. Then the apostles gathered to Jesus and told him all things, both what they had done and what they had taught. And he said to them, come aside by yourselves to a deserted place and rest a while, for there were many coming and going, and they did not even have time to eat. So they departed to the deserted place in the boat by themselves.
Yeah, I think it's important, that we remember to take a time of rest and to disconnect. I know that's one thing that I struggle with everything that I have going on, is to make that a priority. Make sure that I'm able to disconnect. One of the things that I try to do is, when I go home in the evening, that I'm able to leave work at work and be at home when I'm at home. So it's not always the easiest thing to do. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but trying to make that a priority, that when I walk in the door, that I don't bring the stress of my job, or the worries of whatever, or the need to do this along home to my family. So
Hmm.
I think that's just something to keep, important to keep in mind.
Yeah. Has there ever been a moment, I know there has been in my life, has there ever been a moment in your life where um it felt so heavy and you needed to find a way to come back to it? Like, what was the practice? What was the tool that you were able to use to kind of renew yourself and to remember what that you're in this, and that in order to be in this, you have to take care of yourself too?
Uh, yeah, I would say one thing that really helps is having a strong team around me. And for some reason, God has never let all four of us get down at the same time. So, we've all had our turns, and we've all had our turns hitting hard, and but we've been able to work through what we needed to work through, and to get back into what God called us to, and reestablish that yes, we do believe God called us to this. Yes, we do believe that we can overcome this, but sometimes in the midst of the struggle, we are not sure how to get through it. But what we have found is if we can, if we can trust each other in that process, and you know deal with what we need to deal with at the moment, and then overcome, we can usually get through a tough time.
Yeah, I can echo that. It's amazing how God is putting people in our lives in certain situations that really help us through. I mean, you've got this great team that happens to be family around you too, but it's, not everyone necessarily has that. And we have seasons that we have to recognize in that. But there's this beauty in that, because in being known by another person, being known in your community, you also are known in terms of what of yourself you're bringing, and sometimes even before you can admit it to yourself, when you're struggling to bring what you really need to be bringing, or what you feel you're called and capable of bringing too. So having those people is just critically important. And it doesn't matter if it's a worldly business or a nonprofit. It's important to recognize the humanity element in that, for yourself and for those around you, as a leader and just as a part of the team.
Mhm. Another thing that I try to make a priority of is to just disconnect, and if I am going somewhere for a weekend, like, I don't have to take my computer along. Like, if the company is going to crash and burn because I took 2 days off, we have more problems. It's like it can't just all come back to me. And I feel like we've done a pretty good job the last couple of years of putting teams in place that can run with pieces of it to where it doesn't have to come back to me. And quite frankly, a lot of it doesn't anymore. But I remember there was a time when I was. Uh, I think I told somebody that I respond to emails between the time I get up in the morning and the time I go to bed at night. I don't know that there's any email that I don't respond to within 10 minutes. And after I said that, I realized, okay, that's probably not a good thing. That's probably not a good thing. Like, let's figure out how to put some margin around that. And I feel like I've definitely done a lot of that, where the emergency, your 2 week issue is not going to become my emergency tonight when I'm at home with my family. I'm
Hmm.
sorry, it's just not. If this is a 10-year problem or a 20-year problem that you're dealing with, uh, yeah, tonight is not the time to deal with it. We'll deal with it tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock or whenever fits into my calendar, and just putting some of those boundaries in place, and and understanding that sometimes blocking out my calendar for me time alone with God is a priority. And if somebody desperately needs a meeting and I have that blocked out, I'm just going to go change that again and give them priority over my time with God? And the answer is no, I can't. I'm not available for this slot of time because I have plans and I have a commitment to myself to spend that time with God, and I'm not going to change that just to make room for another meeting that can wait.
Yeah, I took a class in the seminary earlier this year that the teacher used the term holy boundaries as a way of describing that, to say that our boundaries aren't to keep people away, it's to actually help our engagement with people and in Christ to kind of really be more present in that. And I thought that was a beautiful challenge, because like your earlier statement about answering emails between when you wake up and go to bed, I feel that deeply. And in prepping for this, kind of shared like, yeah, rest is not my best practice. Like I will be the first to admit that I am not a leader who leads by example when it comes to rest in that way.
Yeah.
But like there's also that battle that you have where it's like, if I take 2 days off and all of a sudden I have 2 days of emails that I have to respond to, well, that day back is way worse than the stress of if I just was responding to those emails for 2 days, trying to make up for everything. So I do kind of find myself finding ways to convince that I shouldn't be stepping away. But I think for me, it's really about the Holy Spirit's movement. It's
Yeah.
really about letting God really speak through me, and that's what happens in those moments of rest. I think about the examples in that class in particular that were discussed, like when we get our bright ideas, so to speak, or when our best ideas come to us. And it sounds silly, but for me, it's driving. Right? Like I'm engaged because I'm being safe and I'm on the road and everything, but I'm also, my mind is kind of wandering, and I'm alone. I don't necessarily listen to a lot of music or podcasts or anything. And all of a sudden I get these ideas because I'm just allowing space to be in prayer, and to just even just be silent, and to just allow God to wash over me in all the ways that God intends to.
Yeah, for me, a lot of my personal time, or time that I really connect with God too, is when I'm driving alone, or if I'm out mowing in the yard or something, and just riding along on the mower, and it's just me and God, and
Hmm.
whatever grass is in front of me is getting clipped off, and I'm just running down the road. So, but yeah, there's definitely something that happens when you make that time, that priority to make that time with God, and just disconnect from all the noise around you, and disconnect from all the demands around you, and make that a priority to connect with God. It's definitely been a huge value.
Yeah. How for you, how does gratitude and celebration play into long-term faithfulness in the face of rest also? Like, are you able to connect kind of the hard times with the good times in a way to be able to say, okay, everything was kind of worth it. God showed what was necessary and what time was ahead. So how does gratitude and celebration kind of play into that for you?
Well, I would say gratitude and celebration are probably some of my weaker points. I'm a high C personality, so I'm a inward focused task person.
Hmm.
And for me, the shortest days are when I'm alone in the office without any meetings and without having to talk to anybody. Those are my shortest days.
Hmm.
But because of my job, that's really hard to happen. And they're sometimes evenings or Saturdays, I'll come in and just spend the day in the office, because that's when I can focus, I can get stuff done, and at the end of the day, I feel fulfilled. Well, at the end of the day, when I get home, then the children want to do something, and they're why don't we just do something? And I'm like, well, resting or vacationing is not something that I have probably have a high enough priority on, simply because I'm not your outgoing people person, but it is something that, and my wife isn't either. She's also more of a C personality. So, we can enjoy being together at home, and we can uh, we do some we do some vacation, but I'm sure there's some of our children would just love to have something going every night, or at least 2 or 3 times a week, and I'm just like, well, let's just relax at home tonight, like. And then we have that balance going on, and just working with the family, and still making that a priority for the ones that enjoy that, or that want to do that, is it's part of it. So
It's kind of funny how God puts introverted people in extroverted roles, isn't it? To really put us in those positions. But I have to say this, and just to celebrate you and in the years that we've known each other, I And I think in general, it's a celebration and a form of gratitude that you know yourself well enough to know where your rest is at the same time, to not have to go out and feel like you need to put on a certain face to please someone. I think there's an obedience to God as compared to an obedience to the world, and what the world kind of dictates that we try to do in order to be these people pleasing type folks. That, and not that we shouldn't try to please people, of course, but it starts with knowing ourselves and knowing what also feeds us, so that we can be pleasing in the Lord's eyes, pleasing for the people that the Lord loves, but also pleasing for ourselves because the Lord loves us.
Yeah.
Like to acknowledge that we are loved and we are also made through grace.
Yeah. And there's I mean, it's a learning curve. It's a learning process, everything that we do. But I do get, I do go to a lot of events. I do meet a lot of people, but it's a lot harder for me to do that kind of work than it is to reconcile a checkbook, for example. I know some people think I'm crazy, but if I just need to de-stress, I just find a couple of accounts that need to be brought up current, and I just go in there and make it work, because numbers don't lie, numbers don't talk back. They line up. You do XYZ, XYZ is the result. It's just the way it is. But people can be all over the place, and yeah, it's I know a lot of that is just personality, or what personal preference, if you will. But that's where I find the most joy, is working with numbers, spreadsheets, that kind of stuff. So.
Well, we all have to find our thing, but at the end of the day, there's a reality to acknowledging the hardness in our lives, and I think it starts with that. It starts with being able to see when it's tough, or surround ourselves with the people that can help name that toughness for us in a compassionate and humanitarian way that helps us realize for ourselves to get called back into what that good is, so that even when doing good gets hard, we can still return back to the good work that God's calling us to.
Yeah. There's definitely something about there's grace for the journey. And, if you're called to do something, there seems to be an extra grace that goes with that. And if you can learn to walk in that, trust God in that process, and actually enjoy the hard things. There's times we're not okay. There's situations where, like, okay, we have no idea how we're going to get through that situation. But then we look back 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. It's like, I'm not sure how we got through that, but we got through it. Here's where we're at today. Other than by the grace of God, I'm not sure how we got through some of these situations that we've gotten through. So there's something about being able to trust God in the midst of the trials, and then allowing God to bring that wow factor into the situation that he really doesn't need to bring in if we have everything figured out. So
yeah, the beauty of the walk towards perfection that we're called to be in constantly, right?
Yeah. Anything you want to share here before we wrap it up yet?
No, I think that's it for me. Thanks, David.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And remember that God has a plan for your life and a beautiful future. And if we can remember to walk where God called us to walk, and to bring hope and joy to those around